special too.
We're going to settle in this morning. I thank you all in advance for being an exemplary audience. You know how I feel about guests and how I expect we should treat them. I want them leaving here thinking this is the best experience they've had. I think we can do that. And for your fellow students that come up on this stage and perform, that's strength and that's courage and that's what we're about. So I expect you to be awesome to them too, and I know you will. So let's get this going. We're going to celebrate Black History Month through her stories this morning. History from the female perspective. The focus today is on honoring African American women and recognizing how much they contribute to our society, though often overlooked. We will begin the program with Kalia Walker in song, followed by Danielle Stewart with an award-winning original oratory. Following our fellow students, Ms. Tracy Berry McGee and Ms. Justice Key will speak. We're very fortunate they're here. Please welcome to the stage the class of 2020 member, Ms. Joy Williams.
For Women is a song written by jazz singer, composer, pianist, and arranger Nina Simone. It was released on the 1966 album Wild as the Wind. It tells the story of 4 different African American women. Each of the 4 characters represents an African American stereotype in society. Please welcome my fellow 2020 classmate, Kalia Walker, who will sing For Women.
My skin is black, my arms are long, my hair is woolly, my back is strong, strong enough to take the pain, afflicted again and again. What do they call me? My name is Aunt Sarah. My name is Aunt Sarah. My skin is yellow. My hair is fine between 2 worlds. That's where I reside. My father was rich and white. He forced my mother one late night. What do they call me? My name is Saffronia. My name is Saffronia. My skin is tan. My hair is fine. My hips invite you. My mouth like wine. Whose little girl am I? Anyone who has money to buy. What do they call me? My name is Sweet Thing. My name is Sweet Thing. My skin is brown. My manner is tough. I'll kill the first mother I see. My life has been rough. I'm awfully better these days, 'cause my parents were slaves. What do they call me? My name is Peaches.
Thank you, Kalia. Danielle Stewart, class of 2022, is an honor student, member of the speech and debate team, as well as captain of the MRH softball team. As a member of speech and debate, Danielle Stewart has won multiple awards for her powerful and inspiring original oratory titled, You're So Proper. Today, Danielle will read her oration to all of us.
One of the things I distinctly remember from elementary school was the day we all came back from winter break in the 4th grade. It was snowing and we all walked in filled with energy. Everyone was beaming, just waiting to brag about what gift Santa had gotten us that year. I smiled as I said hi to one of my favorite teachers of all time, who I still love to this day. She had us all stand around in a circle, and we shared about what we did over break to the class. One boy talked about the impressive gingerbread house he and his friends built. One girl talked about how she went caroling with her family. One boy went on and on and on about the expensive toy helicopter his parents bought for him. After I shared, my teacher gave me a look. It was a mix of impressed and baffled. And I knew I hadn't said anything extravagant, so I was left confused. She followed up by saying, "Danielle, you're so proper. Did you know that?" This was one of my first experiences of being a model minority. Model minority, let's take a look at what this means. The term model minority, first used by sociologist William Peterson, is often used to describe someone who's a part of a minority but rises above or stands apart from the negative biases that that minority may receive. In this oration, we'll take a look at the model minority concept and talk about how this creates unconscious bias which perpetuates stereotypes. Then we'll talk about where these stereotypes come from and how they get reinforced from pop culture. Then finally, we'll look at ways in which we can overcome our unconscious bias. The model minority can refer to someone's gender, religion, sexuality, or any marginalized group of people, but it's most often used to describe somebody's race. If you're a model minority in the Black community, it means you're a bit different from Black folk. You're meant to be the face of all Black people and represent Black culture, yet you're still expected to distance yourself from typical Black behavior. You're not like other Blacks, yet you're still Black enough for a white person to throw out your name while talking about equal rights or diversity. You're the hip urban teacher for white folk. You hold knowledge of all things Black because you understand Black people. You're just not like them. You're better than that. Take another look at what it was that my teacher said to me. "Danielle, you're so proper." Many people would hear this and think, how could someone take offense to that? She just gave you a compliment. But even at that age, I knew that there were other people in my class who were smarter than me, more mature for their age, more well-spoken. My teacher knew it too. Yet I was the only one she ever felt the need to point it out to. It's no secret that Black people aren't expected to be properly educated or speak with correct grammar or be in any way smart. So when we're seen to be these things, white people often feel the need to point it out to us, as if us being not as dumb as they thought we'd be is some type of compliment. I'm sure you'll remember when Joe Biden infamously referred to Barack Obama as articulate in the New York Observer in 2007. In fact, his exact words were, "You got the first mainstream African American who's articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy." Just weeks ago, the billionaire presidential candidate Mike Bloomberg referred to his fellow candidate Cory Booker as well-spoken. Cory Booker graduated from Stanford University, Yale Law School, was a Rhodes Scholar, and is currently a U.S. Senator. Yeah, he's well-spoken. These may not be examples of the evil, explicit, white hoods and fire hoses racism, but they're harmful nonetheless. Comments such as, "You're so articulate," or "You're so well-spoken," are not compliments and will never flatter us, especially when they're mixed with the shocked facial expression and the implication that we've been underestimated before we've even been spoken to. It's these everyday, normalized, well-meant biases that hurt, even when well-intentioned. So what causes this systemic pattern, you may be wondering? I knew my teacher. She was extremely nice and smart and socially aware. So what makes even the most good-hearted of people fall into this pattern? The quick and easy answer is to just say that racism is the problem. Racism needs to end, and then this will all stop. And while we can all agree that racism is bad, I'd like to suggest that maybe this issue goes a bit deeper than that. Consider this. This country was built off of racism and white supremacy, and it still runs on these things. From slavery to segregation to lingering widespread discrimination, racism has been around for as long as we've been alive, and we do not know a world without it. It's engraved into our minds, and this way of thinking is built in with us, whether we'd like to admit it or not. Because of this, each and every one of us have unconscious bias. According to Masri Benahi, an unconscious bias is a learned stereotype that's automatic, unintentional, but deeply, deeply rooted. We all have them, and they aren't going anywhere. Not all hope is lost, though. Now that I've introduced unconscious bias, I'll now talk about how this perpetuates stereotypes and how this gets pushed from pop culture, which gets imposed onto real people. In order to do this, I'll share one more story to illustrate my point. Around a year ago, I was FaceTiming a guy I was once friends with, and I asked him, "What was your first impression of me?" His response, "I thought you'd be like every other black girl at this school." After being very visibly offended, he went on to try to distract me from the comment by telling me how nice and level-headed and down-to-earth I was. Things I soon realized was, in his mind, the opposite of your typical black woman. It became very clear to me that black people aren't seen as individuals. We're seen as argumentative, loud, angry. That's it. When we're seen to be gentle or quiet or polite or warm, it's seen as some type of shock or relief. Or when we show any signs of originality, such as an alternative taste in music or fashion, it's seen as some type of glitch in the system. A lot of this comes all the way from slavery, of course. Removing the identity of slaves was always a conscious effort made by slave owners. Renamed from their culture, their language, being cut off from engaging in any of their own hobbies or interests or beliefs, this concept is nothing new. However, if legalized American slavery ended decades ago, how come this pattern is still occurring? Why in 2020 are we still seen in this light? The amount of things that factor into this are way more than I can even count, but I'd like to put a spotlight on something I see as one of the main perpetrators of this phenomenon: television. Shows like fiction, sitcoms, and reality TV only further reinforce the stereotypes of loud black girl, angry black girl, and sassy black girl. It's like I only have three options. Because of this, black women all around the country feel the need to walk on eggshells when it comes to watching their resting facial expression, their tone of voice, or dealing with their emotions in general. Because in this society, a black woman's negative emotions make up their identity. So I've made the point that when you point out a black person going against black stereotypes, you're only further reinforcing those biases. So what's the path forward? This isn't meant to guilt you for seeing racial stereotypes. It's not even meant to suggest a solution as to how to get rid of them. That's something that would take decades of mental reconditioning and will not stop until racism comes to an end. Which, realistically, something none of us will ever live to see. And I'm not saying that everyone with these thoughts or even expressions are racist. I'm saying that we live in and are a product of a culture with a long history and strong social forces. Because of this, there's unconscious bias within all of us. And while we can't get rid of this unconscious bias, we can look past it. We need to have a conversation with ourselves when society plants one of these stereotypes into our minds, and a conversation with each other when we hear them out loud. So how exactly do we battle our unconscious bias, you may be wondering? There's professional training offered all around the country as to how to overcome this. However, I'd like to suggest a much simpler way as to how to begin in making this change. Take this into consideration. Not every single one of your thoughts are your thoughts. Meaning you do not own every single thought that comes into your mind because thoughts are not intentional. For example, I'm sure that when you were little, you at some point had it in your mind that pink was for girls and blue was for boys. Or that people with tattoos or piercings are rebellious. This wasn't an opinion you formed yourself or a conclusion you decided to come to. This was simply society planting this way of thinking into your mind. And while these thoughts are still in our minds to this day, that doesn't necessarily make them our opinion. We don't have to take ownership of these thoughts. It works the same way with race. If you were to see a black girl, and the first thing that unawarely comes to your mind is, oh, she's probably loud, aggressive, and not the brightest. Or if I were to see an Asian guy and think, oh, he's probably passive and smart, but not good at sports. That doesn't have to make either of us bad people. Like I said, this way of thinking is built into the ground that we walk upon. What's important is what you do with the thought. You could A, allow those thoughts to become your reality and treat people as their stereotypes, giving in to how white supremacists want us to operate. Or B, acknowledge the fact that the stereotype is in your mind, but not letting that existence of the thought become your opinion. And along with that, give everyone not only the benefit of the doubt, and not only an equal opportunity to make a good impression, but an equal shot in individuality despite someone's race or ethnic background. So I've examined the model minority. We've explored how this creates unconscious bias and how this perpetuates stereotypes. We talked about how the stereotypes get pushed through pop culture, and ultimately we looked at a solution. If we can admit to the ugly, uncomfortable biases that society puts into our minds, then we can learn how to confront those thoughts with courage and grace. As the great American author James Baldwin once said, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. Thank you.
Tracy Berry McGee is the founder of the Sister Keeper Empowerment Center, an international nonprofit for girls, a therapist, mentor, motivational speaker, and author known as Divine T. She is a St. Louis native and attended the University of Missouri-St. Louis, where she received her Master's of Education in Counseling and her Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology. She has self-published books, poetry books, journals, and curricula for girls ages 8 to 18 that focus on defining on who they are, having a voice, and walking in their purpose, declaring, "I define me." She has also published a therapeutic poetry book for women. Berry McGee has a private practice wellness center named Amani Therapy for women and girls. Her mission is to encourage young women to find their purpose through motivational speaking in local, national, and global communities. As a social entrepreneur, she travels the country speaking about self-awareness, body image, anti-bullying, literacy, celebrating sisterhood, and how to make a difference in their communities. Tracy is a member of the American Counseling Association, the Alliance of Black Mental Health Professionals, and Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, St. Louis Metropolitan Alumni Chapter. She is also a nonviolence ambassador for the King Center. With her, she has brought along Justice Key.
Good morning. Can you all hear me? I am so honored to be here today, and this is a beautiful opportunity for us to come together to celebrate Black history. I brought a young lady with me who started focusing on defining her voice when she was in 7th grade. We all know that this is a time when you typically lose your voice. So Sister Keeper, just a little background. Sister Keeper is spelled with an A instead of an ER. How many of you all have sisters? Raise your hand. How many of you all have brothers? So the ER in sister and brother means that you're biological sisters and brothers. Sister Keeper is spelled with the A. It's spelled with the A for a reason, because it means that we're all sisters and we're all brothers. I often say black, white, tall, short, thick or thin, hazelnut, blend, cantaloupe skin. Just open up your multicultural Crayola box. If you find your color, that means you're a sister or a brother. So hopefully the message today can bring us all together. One of the things that I realize is it's so important for us to be mentors and to always reach back. So when I started this relationship with my Sister Keeper Justice, in 7th grade we continued. Because in 2002, we started Sister Keeper, there was still this issue of girls defining their voices just like it is today. So now I continue to travel, and now I reach back and I take Justice with me. So I want you all to welcome Justice. Justice is justice because justice means balance, as well as it's just us. And today she's going to do it for the culture. And that's what our topic will be. So everybody, welcome Justice Key.
I don't know what you need with some bop in it, but I know knowledge is power, so that's how we're gonna rock with it. And I love seeing young Black entrepreneurs because that tells me that our ancestors' prayers definitely had us locked in. It wasn't easy for Harriet, Martin, and Rosa to stand for us to be free, but they did that for you and for me. So I need you to walk like you have gold on the bottom of your feet. Fix your crown and be bold enough to follow your dream. Go far and don't listen to the negative things they told you. Be bold, be free. Remember, I define me, and do it for the culture. I'm Justice Key.
So I used to keep a book, a journal, because I love writing. How many of you love writing? And I still keep books and journals. I remember there was a time when I was a little girl and I used to write in my journal. And I used to have this little lock with the key and it said, "Do not enter," because it was all about me. And then we got these beautiful phones, these cell phones. African Americans discovered the cell phones, right? And literally I started keeping all of my notes in the phone. At some point today I'm gonna need a pen. So if somebody has a pen, please make sure you give it to me. But for now, I'll take it. I'll take it now. I want to talk to you. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Ladies, it's fine. I don't know. It's like, let me see. So before I get started, so we got a freshman. Where's our freshman? Okay, snap if you feel me. Sophomores. I just got to feel my juniors. Seniors. Okay. Well, I'll go back and forth, but I want you all to leave here today with the message if there's no message that you get, the message that I want you to be clear about is I define me. So I want to ask you, who defines you? And you got the band, you say I define me. Who defines you? Say it again, who defines you? It is important that you know who defines you. So, growing up as a little girl, I struggled with defining myself. You see, I used to think I looked like a little boy, you know? And you know those pictures they have of you when you were a baby, you don't want anybody to see those pictures because at the end of the day, you're really still trying to define yourself, right? So for me, I was born a statistic. My mom was only 15. And I struggled with defining myself. I struggled with defining my identity. I grew up being bullied and people talked about my lips. They said that they were bigger than, they used to say I could scoop ice cream with my lips. They were like soup coolers. And now today people are like pumping up their lips to make sure that everybody's lips are like popping and everything like that. But I grew up feeling like my lips were too big and my hair was too thick. And if anytime you're feeling me, you can snap if you're feeling it. But you see, at the end of the day, I was a statistic. I was a statistic when I was born. Number one, because I was born black. Number two, my mom was a teen mom. She didn't have me by myself. I was a teen dad. But I had to realize that I too had a history. See, I knew that there was more to what society said about me. I was born at a historical hospital that had African American doctors in an African American community serving African American people. And I was born living on the north side, the east side, the south side, the west side. But clearly, I'm from the show me state. Yet, so often, I would ask others to show me what love looked like. But you know that love starts within. And sometimes we don't know what it feels to be what we say, blackity black, 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 right? And I struggled with that. So I had to start figuring out what did that mean for me first. And so I'm talking about me first because I want you to kind of get who I am and where I come from. So I started finding the love for myself at the Cabrini Branch Library. I love the library. The library is full of books, it's full of history, it's full of poetry, it's full of music, it's full of all the things that I love. And even at times, you can even watch movies. It was a space that I felt comfortable. So I felt comfortable in my community, of course. I felt comfortable at school. That was my safe space. But I also loved the library. How many of us love books still? How many of us love poetry? Snap if you feel me. And how many of us love music? So I'm just doing like a quick example because I love music. I love jazz, rhythm, blues, hip hop, country. You know, I can drop a beat at any time. I can't sing. Some of y'all can sing. Kalia can sing. Some of y'all can sing. Everybody can sing. But there's some people who can just sing. But my thing is a little bit like poetry. So I want to bring us all together. If you don't mind, I'm going to write a little bit on this piece of paper. I want everybody, or just a few of you, to tell me, so we can bring everybody together, your favorite song. Quickly, somebody up here, tell me one of your favorite songs. I don't want to know the words, but your favorite song. Murder who? What's it say? Help me out.
Chicken fried.
Chicken fried? Chicken fried. Okay, give me some. I got you. Yes.
Neighbors by J. Cole.
Neighbors by J. Cole.
Get Got by Death Grips.
Who?
Get Got by Death Grips.
Gets Got. Okay, I'm loving it. Yes, brother. Slipping. Slipping. Yes. Sticks. Sticks. Best thing I never had. The who of God? From, best thing I never had. From the perspective of God. Oh my goodness. We have a playlist here. What by J. Cole? No role models. No role models. say Bob? Okay. I need some educators. Help us out. Bridge the gap. Where's my principal? Give me some. Give me a song. Bob, give me a song. What's your favorite song? He said, he got to think about this. Everybody, you know your favorite song? Love Theory? Yes.
I like Latin music.
Okay. Tell me the title.
Black shirt.
Black shirts. Okay, so. All right, so listen. So now we have our playlist. Did you all want to participate? Okay, give me one song. By who? Okay. If by Janet Jackson. Okay. Who? Laura Lee? What's the name of it? Dirty who? Dirty Man? Dirty Man. All right, I think, okay. I'm sorry. I don't want to leave anybody out. I'm going to stop right with you. You had your hand up. Who in the desert? Who's in the desert? Rivers in the desert. Rivers is the desert. Okay, so check this out. I told you that I started falling in love with music and books and movies and poetry because this is where you find your gifts. You find your gifts at school. You find your gifts with stepping outside of your comfort zone. And that's what these ladies did up here today. They stepped outside of their comfort zone. Danny told me she's used to doing this all the time in debates, but to be in front of your peers, it's hard. It's hard. To sing, I can't sing a lick. I can sing, but I can't sing. But when you know your gifts, you know how to rock to your own beat, right? So no, I don't like chicken fried. I don't know what my neighbors like, but I know that I'm going to get got if I keep slipping because I'm not about those sticks and I don't like those stones. But the best thing that I never had was a dirty man. And it may be rivers in the deserts, but if you know the perspective of God, that you know that no role models will make me change my crooked smile because I know about that bop and this is the love theory. No, I don't have a black shirt that's got on a white and it says I define me because I define me. Born and raised, moved to Florissant, started a group, a circle of girls, 7 girls, and then I decided, why not take this all around the world? Because we really need to know how to define ourselves. So Sister Keeper became an international organization for all girls. Traveling, we have chapters in Africa, New Mexico, Thailand, Jamaica, Germany, Ghana. But those things didn't mean anything to me if I didn't know myself. Yeah, I end up receiving an NAACP award, and I got to walk the red carpet and meet Taraji and all those great people and Tavajine, but at the end of the day, I had to realize who was my role model. And it was the person that I started reading the book about in the Capanee Branch Library. And all I'm saying this is because there are things in our history that we may not like, but there are also things in our history that we have to grab and hold on to because it creates a change in our life. So that's when I met my role model, Dr. Maya Angelou. And it was really interesting because those things in life, they don't matter unless a person makes you feel a certain kind of way. And that's the feeling that I felt when I interacted with this woman. And I want you to understand that even today, even though I define myself as a beautiful black woman, I need you all to understand that beauty comes in all colors and shades. And we have to really reach out and understand that I know some beautiful women. Brothers, I'm sure y'all know some beautiful women on the outside, but the inside is toxic. They can be beautiful on the inside, but on the outside, but the inside stink. You feel me? And so we have to realize how are we defining ourselves from the inside out? Because we come in all shapes and sizes. So that's really important. So I want you all quickly, look at the person next to you and say, I define me. Yes. Look at the person on the other side of you and say, I define me. It is so important that you know who defines you. So let's get to the basics. Why are we here? I'm not going to keep you long. For the rest of February, we're celebrating Black History Month, and I'm sure that people question why. My reply is simply, why not? Why not? How many of you all love history? Okay, a few of you raise your hand. My point exactly. Many of us may not be a fan of history, therefore, in order for history not to repeat itself, we have to celebrate it yearly so that we cannot forget and we can learn from our past so that we can be present and we can create change. Remember, there was a time when we didn't have integrated schools and we couldn't swim in the same swimming pools or drink from the same water fountains because we as African Americans were considered less than humane. And so it's important that you say, I define me, because just prior to the Civil Rights Movement, we were considered to be property. And I'm sure that you've read about it, but seldom do we hear about the Benjamin Bannekers of the world, or the Phyllis Wheatleys, or the Mary the Cloud Bethune. Why not? Because we were considered less than. But today, due to Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the son of a slave whom in 1912 earned his PhD at Harvard, he decided that educating people about the contributions of African Americans was necessary for us, as all Americans, to embrace our ethnicity. Remembering when there was a time when Black history was misrepresented, and it was missing from the history books, and it still is to this day. So the Negro History Week, it coincides with the birthday of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. And today we celebrate what we call Black History Month. But the question still remains, why? And my answer is, why not? How many of you know your history, your language, your journey? If you do, you should be proud, because it's empowering to know what you're made of. Many of us have a rich history with a culture that has customs that historically have left a mark on the world. But imagine being a part of a race of people who less than 100 years ago didn't even have a voice. Today, the makeup of our being looks very different, but we must not forget our history. And no, our history doesn't start from slavery. You all know that we are kings and queens and we're royalty. And my message today is intentional, but it's short, because I need you to know that you are who you are from the start. And many times our historical society and educational environments were not culturally relevant. We don't have enough books to this day. We don't have enough music that speaks to what we need to see. And so I just need you to know Harriet was not just a movie. And Maya Angelou, she did rise. And the baby does have that vibe. And as Lizzo said, sometimes the truth hurts. But I need you to know, Black girls, that the magic runs in your veins. It runs in all of our veins, and whether you're light-skinned or the sun kisses you and you're almond dark, remember when we post on social media, our other little girls are watching. And many times we have this digital footprint that we leave. So we have to think about the post before we start to click and then send, and even some of the things that we receive. Because these are the things that filter through our minds on a daily basis. And I want you to also understand that you're not just representing a culture, because everybody is different, as Danny said, but you're representing who you are, not just 24/7, but 365 days, and this year 366, if you're feeling me. And the other thing about this is to the diversity in the room, whether you're cantaloupe skin or peanut butter parfait, we are all a part of the USA. And don't ever say, I don't see color, because I need you to see me. But also know that I see you too. And at the end of the day, we all bleed red. So quickly, if you've ever used a typewriter, raise your hand. A cellular phone, keep your hands up, raise your hand. Raise your hand if you ever used a guitar. Please stand if you ever used an elevator or opened a refrigerator.
Check. Got my shot.
So it's important for you all to see that yes, you too are a part of Black history. So don't ever, 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 ever question why we celebrate our history. Because we are all a part of knowing I define me. Thank you.
Eli, you kicked it.
So another thing, just before we wrap up, just think about what diversity looks like on a regular basis. Growing up in the St. Louis area, we have imaginary divides that pull us apart. I travel all over the world, and people often ask us about the negativity of our community, because one little thing has put us on the map forever. But the things that we can do when we come together, it can put us on the map, and we can change what that narrative looks like. So anytime that we take selfies and you know, we try to, because we do a lot of selfies, right? We need to be able to do these things and come together. I always say we're better together because we are. I grew up as a part of a DSEG program where I grew up in the city and I had to catch the bus to a whole other part of the community that did not look like me. And it was a struggle because I too dealt with those same things that Danny dealt with, and I'm 54. Ooh, did I just say that? Sometimes things just come out ish years old. But at the end of the day, some things never grow old. And that was a big struggle for me, defining my identity, when people constantly talked about my hair and my lips and my Beyonce. And I had to decide how I was going to define me. So when you have the opportunities to come together in such a rich community as this and try different foods and different styles, remember, I don't want you to act like me and I don't want to act like you, but it's important that we define ourselves completely and embrace one another. And if you don't remember anything else, remember I gave you a band. Follow us on social media, connect with us, but most importantly, know I define me. Thank you.
We would like to present a small token of our appreciation to Miss Tracy Berry McGee and Miss Justice Key with these plaques. They read, presented to Tracy McGee, an appreciation for your support and service as the Black History Assembly keynote speaker, Maplewood Richmond Heights High School. With deep appreciation for your talent and your time so generously given at the Black History Month Assembly. She wrote a book called We Want to Do More Than Survive, the Abolitionist Teaching in the Pursuit of Educational Freedom. To begin the work of abolitionist teaching and fighting for justice, the idea of mattering is essential in that you must matter enough to yourself, to your students, and to your students' community to fight. But for dark people, the very basic idea of mattering is sometimes hard to conceptualize when your country finds you disposable. How do you matter to a country that is at once obsessed with and dismissive about how it kills you? How do you matter to a country that would rather incarcerate you than educate you? How do you matter to a country that poisoned your child's drinking water? How do you matter to a country that sees your skin as a weapon? How do you matter to a country that steals your land, breaks treaty after treaty, and calls you a savage? How do you matter to a country that tears families apart because of arbitrary lines that instill terror, violence, and geographical separation rather than compassion for humanity? How do you matter to a country that will ban you because of how you pray and who you pray to? How do you matter to a country that ultimately only sees you as property or a commodity? How do you matter to a country that rips children out of the hands of their parents and locks them in dog cages for seeking a better life? How do you matter to a country that measures your knowledge against a gap it created? How do you matter to a country that labels you a model minority in order to fuel anti-blackness? How do you matter to a country that would rather arm teachers with rocks than have courageous conversations with itself about gun control, eliminating guns, and white male rage? How do you matter to a country where the idea of consent seems alien to its conquering culture? How do you matter to a country where the president calls immigrants animals, particularly those from Mexico? How do you matter to a country where Betsy DeVoe, a billionaire heiress and staunch advocate for privatizing public education, refuses to protect our most vulnerable students in public schools, is the Secretary of Education? How do you matter to a country that is incapable of loving dark bodies and therefore incapable of loving you? We who are dark are complex. We are more than our skin hues of blacks and browns. We intersect our moonlit darkness with our cultures, languages, races, genders, sexualities, abilities, and religions, as well as our spiritualities. Our complicated identities cannot be discussed or examined in isolation from one another. These identity complexes, which create our multifaceted range of beings, must matter too.
Although she cannot be here with us today, I have been given the opportunity to present an award to our very own superintendent, Dr. Karen Hall. She is one of very few African-American female superintendents in St. Louis. I've heard students say that they could not imagine the district without her, and I very much agree with that. Thank you for all that you do to ensure our district is one of inclusion, acceptance, and equity. Her award reads, presented to Dr. Karen Hall for your dedication and commitment to equity, social justice, and inclusion. Maplewood Richmond Heights High School Black History Month Assembly, February 7, 2020.
Just like life. All right.
Mayor Jordan, ready to take off.
Can I get an amen? And welcome to the very first National Oprah Winfrey Show!
Wow. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Danny, Kalia, Kayla. Our special guest was awesome. I haven't seen one this good. Dr. Payton, thank you for all your work you did to create this. This is a special day. So here's what we're going to do the rest of the day. All right, one more round of applause. Let's go.